talk. It's fine.
Doesn't it make me look disinterested?
All right, we are live with Dave
we're
Sheehan.
Live. Dave, get off your phone.
Dave,
Come on,
why are you
this is a
so
You look so
disinterested?
disinterested.
Dave is just—he's sharing the Facebook status, everybody. So don't
That's
hate.
right. Technology.
Somebody couldn't wait for me to do this. It was
No,
gonna
we
take
couldn't.
me 8 seconds, Brandon.
8 seconds. That's like a bull ride, man. We don't have that kind of time around here.
It's like a what?
A bull ride.
Oh,
I figured it out. I
ride.
thought he said Ebola, which didn't make
It's
any
just like
sense.
Ebola.
I thought you said a bull ride.
A bull. Well, that's a different kind of ride. That's illegal in this state. Adam,
Oh,
shame on you.
okay. Yes.
What's going on, everybody?
Hello. Hello.
Back
world.
for your daily, weekly dose of the Comedy LOL Intro and Extro podcast.
That's right.
We're here with our friend, fellow stand-up comedian Dave Sheehan.
Mr.
Sheehan?
Dave.
Hello,
Sheehan.
everyone. Thank you for having me.
How are you today?
problem.
Awesome.
Awesome. How was your day?
Awesome.
Tell us
Dave-
about it.
Dave works from home.
Oh, he
Yes.
does?
That's
Yes.
something that's very cool, I find.
That is cool, man. I work from home, but it's on this podcast. I don't get paid for it, so I don't think it's really working from
Well, it's
home.
way cooler than what I do and do get paid for.
Can you tell us about it?
Yes, I work for a software company. I do technical support for financial software.
Oh, right. So you get to deal with people all day on the
Yep.
phone? Oh, that's cool.
It's about as exciting as all that.
That's by day. By night, he is an awesome stand-up comedian here
Yes.
in Connecticut.
Yes.
I was hoping you were going to say a ninja. I was going to say, how do you know about that?
I just saw him at Two Roads Brewery in Stratford.
Say
I
it
could
again.
talk. Brewery. Two Roads Brewery.
Two Roads Brewery.
Yeah, he was
I
doing
never
a
heard of
show
that.
there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
When
I
was
just
that?
happened to be there with a friend, and then I ran into him.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, hey. And then I was going to try to find Darren Rivera, but I had to go. I was going to try to weasel my
Ah.
way for a few minutes.
Ah,
Just go in and grab the microphone from him.
Gotcha. I just recently did a show with Dave last Wednesday.
Yes.
Last Wednesday, there was a little bit of technical difficulties going on when you were up there. When everybody was up there too. I don't know. Do you want to kind of tell Brandon what happened there?
Yeah, I was the first one. He was hosting. I was the first one up. The the wireless mic kept dying about once a minute
Oh, no. Where was this?
at a bar in Southington.
Yep.
Okay.
The owner kept coming over and saying, "Look for the green light. Look for the green light." The green light was on. It still wasn't working.
Oh, no.
So what's Plan B? Flick the switch on the Radio Shack mixing board.
Ooh.
Yes.
High tech. Was it Tandy?
I think it was Commodore 64.
Commodore
actually.
64. That's high tech.
Yes,
All
I
right.
think he bought it at Radio Shack because Circuit City had closed for the day.
Realistic.
Yeah.
Circuit City did
Most of
close
my
for the
act
day.
was suffering through a broken mic.
All right.
Yeah, that was what everybody had to deal with. And the owner, the problem was that I think the batteries that were in the wireless mic were bad,
Oh.
and this problem kept happening every minute for probably 30 minutes before the owner comes up with a bag full of batteries and just finally switches it.
Well, if he only had a bag, maybe
Yeah.
he was trying to,
Because what bar owner doesn't have a bag full of batteries in
Yeah.
the back closet there for...
probably what he uses
Purposes.
to beat people with when they're not buying drinks.
Yeah.
Those damn bar
But I
owners.
mean, if he had, my thing is, if he had those batteries all along, why wouldn't he have just come up after 5 minutes and switched it?
Yeah, no, I hear you.
But
Batteries
instead,
ain't cheap,
so
man.
like Dave said, we kept having to go back to the board, which wasn't anywhere near where we were standing.
No.
There was no stage, but it was there was a certain area that all the comics were standing and doing our act, and the board was probably 20 feet away.
Yes.
So it was literally you stop, you couldn't talk anymore because the mic went dead. So you had to walk 20 steps back to turn the board on and off, and then walk forward again another 20 steps.
That sounds horrific.
Yes.
Closer to the performers than the mic stand was a pool table where, when Adam began his set, 2 guys were playing a game right behind him.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So
How was that?
It was
The rigors of stand-up comedy,
yes,
I tell
the
you
rigors
what.
of starting stand up in bar shows.
That's-
I'm grateful for the experience, for the time.
Yes, same
everybody
here.
is, and but it's just you know how it is sometimes.
we all have stories like
Did you?
that. Oh, goodness.
Did either of you? I know you did the Zen Bar show. Wasn't there a pool tournament going on?
Yes. Yep.
Were you at
Both
that show?
nights, yes.
Oh, both times.
Yep.
Okay, because they recently did 2 of them. Did
Yes.
you go to either of those shows?
No,
Or
I
you
did
don't-
not.
No? Yeah, I heard that. I heard that there was a big pool tournament going on.
The show started late. The tournament ended up overlapping, and it was on the other side of the room, but there were more people and it was louder, so it was distracting and unfortunate for the people who were trying to perform on the other side of the room.
Wow. Yeah,
Jeez.
it's I guess it all comes with the territory.
Yeah,
stand up.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what you never know until you get somewhere what it's going to be like. But the whole cordless mic, if anyone's listening and you are a comedian, don't use a cordless mic for comedy. The only time it's really good is if there's a special or something like that, and it's a show that's going to be an hour, something you know, and you need a cordless mic. But if you don't need a cordless mic, don't use one, because there's a lot of issues involved where with just a regular mic. That's why people still use regular mics for comedy, everywhere you go, because you don't have to worry about batteries. The sound is there. You don't have to worry about anything interfering with it. It's just so much less.
Yeah.
And when it malfunctions, it's because you stepped on the cord and they came apart, and you can easily redo that. And that'll take 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You don't have to call anybody to bring a bag of batteries over to the stage.
And the quality, to get a really good cordless mic, you have to spend money. I have a really good one that I use for weddings and for DJing, but we're not talking the whole time, so you could turn it off and only when you need it. So
have you ever had any problems like with it when you were trying to talk at a wedding?
No, not really. The only time that I can think of we had a problem, we were doing this benefit for the New Haven Police Department. It's called Cop on Top or something like that.
Cop on Top.
And they have a cop on top of you choking you. No, I'm just kidding.
Isn't this a Dr. Seuss book?
Yeah. There's a cop on top of the police station, and they don't take him down until there's a certain amount of money raised. So we set up a DJ booth area near the road, and we were yelling at cars and all this stuff and playing music. But their radio, their CB or whatever they use, the police scanner radios, were interfering, so we had to use a corded mic for that. But other than that, I mean, if you get really good quality stuff, we use Shure, SHURE microphones.
I think I've seen that.
They're kind of pricey, but they're totally worth it. I mean, I've had my mic for 5 or 6 years now. No issues. Just the microphone part right here. Sometimes if you drop it enough, it'll get dented, but you could just buy a new one of those. So yeah. So that's microphones for you guys out there. A little pro tip for you. Use a corded mic.
This is a microphone podcast.
This is a podcast.
Today.
Yeah, it is. So how'd you get into stand-up there, sir? How long you been doing it, first of all? That's what I want to know.
2002.
Oh, right. Wow.
A while, yes.
Jeez.
I know, yeah.
What year is it now, 2014?
It's later than that.
Wow, that's awesome. So you've been doing continuously for that long?
Yeah, I've never really had more than a month or two break at a time.
And where are you from? I wanted to ask you that, too.
Born in New Haven, always lived in this area, West Haven, New Haven, Orange area.
What high school do you go to?
Amity in Woodbridge.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
Because I know we're similar age. Because I always thought you looked familiar, but I wasn't sure why.
Well, a lot of people tell me that, even without the whole Sheldon thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I just look like people other people know.
Yeah,
so
I get the same
sometimes
thing.
It is true. Other times, Joe everybody.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
And that, but you do the hair to counter it, right?
Yeah. Well, now that I have the hair, everybody knows. So I was in New York yesterday doing mics, and I haven't been there in probably since, I think it was August we went last.
Probably.
Or maybe September, because
September
we did the San Gennaro feast.
Oh, okay. So maybe the beginning of September.
Yeah, and there was a girl that runs one of the Buddha mics. I haven't seen her forever. She's like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" It's easy because I'm tall. I got the hair, so I'm screwed if I go bald. Then I'm gonna be like, "Oh no, no one recognizes me."
Funny enough, I feel like a lot of people say I look familiar, even though they have never seen me before.
Yeah.
But I think people they might see me once and they just never forget.
Well, people know so many people. You meet a stranger, he might look like somebody you know, so
yeah.
that would be true. There's only so many looks.
Yeah, there's only
human
so
faces can have, especially people who don't have their glasses on.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So stand up for about 12 years.
Yes.
That is amazing. How'd you get into it?
Probably similarly to how a lot of people did. I used to watch it a lot growing up. I used to have thoughts of bits I would try if I ever did. I even started writing them down at one point. Sometime around, I think it was 1999, 2000, I found a school that's no longer around. It was a performing arts school based out of New Haven. I think they had a school in Hartford also. They catered mostly to theater stuff, but they also had comedy, improv, and stand-up classes as well. So I wanted to do stand-up, but the first offering that came up was improv, so that was unlike anything I'd ever done before. I figured I'd try it. I enjoyed that. I ended up doing some improv over the years as well, and then finally the stand-up class rolled around, so I took that. I didn't really want to try it without having some kind of guidelines or rules. I didn't really just want to wing it. So, and even now, 12 years later, I still remember a lot of the things they taught in that class about how to write, how to, presence on stage, all the elements of it, and I still go back to that in my head. So
that's awesome.
That was a big investment for me that has lasted.
What's something you think that really sticks in your mind over the years that you learned? Is there certain...
There's so many. I still remember so much about it. How to structure sentences to try to put the funny word at the end versus somewhere in the middle, and then once people hear the punchline, they stop laughing, or they start laughing, and then you're still kind of talking.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an important one, definitely.
just stage presence. Get where you're blinded by the light. If you know, some people I know who perform like to be able to see the audience.
Yeah.
I don't care one way or the other. I can still interact. If I can see two people and I want to talk to the audience, I can talk to them. But the blinder you are, the better people can see you.
Oh yeah.
So always
I never
remember
thought
that.
about
Because a lot of people go to like a bar where the lighting's not ideal because it's a bar. And I've done probably 3 or 4 shows in the last 6 months alone where the light was beaming down on my crotch. Now I realize
was this a comedy show or a donkey?
Yes.
Right.
No farm animals
All right.
at these
Anymore.
venues.
Mexican
At least
donkey
not
show.
until I left.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened after that.
I cannot speak for.
But I realize I'm tall, but at the same time, it's like I can't really get into the light there without like sitting on the floor, and then that just looks ridiculous. So I don't always have the option. And usually, if that is the situation, I make a joke about it, and it usually goes over well because people can see right away that like it's dark up where they're trying to look.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's very important. 'Cause I do a lot of mics and a lot of shows, and I notice certain people just get up there and get right into their routine. But the people who get up there and make like an observational, like maybe the guy before him or a situation about this, or if they address it, people just seem more genuine and they laugh, and then you can just kind of go on what you have to talk about.
That's what I've been trying to do more because it brings them to you. If you just go up there and start reading, then it's almost like literally you're picking up a book and reading to people.
Yeah.
When you start acknowledging the room, things they're already thinking about, you bring them to you, and it's a good start.
Yeah, I think that's part of the art form of stand-up, because you could be an actor, you get out there and you read what you have to do, but a stand-up, it's live in the moment, so everything is fair game. And I love, those are my favorite comedians, I think, that could just grab it and run
I've
with
been
it.
doing that more recently than I used to. I'm always trying to find new stuff to work on, and that's been one thing, and that's always a way to bring people to you. Talk about something weird somebody in the front row is wearing, which everyone around them has already seen, but nobody's acknowledged, and then it's just like, we're all thinking it, and you just said it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I think people go in like to comedy shows with the expectation that the comic is gonna say things about the room.
At least there's the chance. Yeah.
So I think that's, you know, like you said, they enjoy that aspect. It brings them to you, and that's been something that I've been trying to work on too. Even if you say one thing about the room, it's better than just getting up there and, you know, just launching into your act, because then I feel like they think you're an amateur if you don't acknowledge anything. If you just go up there and like, oh, so, you know.
Yeah, plus I think they could see how creative you are on the fly.
Yeah.
That's why that makes people laugh. If you're quick, it doesn't necessarily have to be the funniest thing, but if something happens and you have a quick retort, you know, it's like boom, you know.
If it's like if it's from an organic place, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be funny. It just can be something that's kind of funny, and they'll laugh harder at that than they will at any thing that they know is your material, because there's like a higher standard for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's something I got to practice at the show he was talking about last week, because the mic kept going out, so I was almost forced to stop what I planned to do and just kind of address how ridiculous the situation was, and they stayed with me.
Yeah.
How much time did you get at this?
I was planning to do about 7. I probably did more than that just because I was trying to do something other than wait for Julio to come out of the back room with his big old bag of batteries. But that was what I ended up waiting for. At one point, someone in the audience just yelled out, "Just do it without the mic." So I did that for 30 seconds. Like, yeah, you need the mic.
Oh man.
But again, just going with the moment, like you said.
Yeah.
It's part of the trade.
And you did that really well, by the way.
Thank
you the way that you kind of dealt with the fact that the mic kept turning off and having to just roll with the punches, and then coming up with jokes on top of it.
And that's another thing I've been working on a lot.
That crowd had, like, there was a good amount of hecklers in that crowd.
They were like the supportive talky people.
Exactly.
They want you to do well, but I'm going to talk to you while you're doing well, and that's what's going to make you do well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what you want in an audience.
Those helping hecklers.
Yes.
There were a lot of those. So.
Yeah, that's always funny.
But no, you handled that like a pro.
Thank
Just
you.
kind of went with it and did your jokes and had good stuff on the fly. So took lemons and made it into lemonade.
Thank you.
Awesome. Make it into some limoncello, right?
Lemon. Oh, I like that better.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that from now on. I do like lemonade.
I'm copywriting that right now live on the air.
All right.
I'm sure
I'll give you credit when I use
somebody
it.
must have. Yeah,
Anytime I put it on Facebook, I'll tag you.
I'll tag. He said this first.
Yes.
So 12 years.
Almost 13. Well, 12 and a half at this point.
We had an interesting conversation a while back when we were doing Sully's, and
Was it in your car?
No, it was before that.
Okay.
It was when we were still hanging out at the bar after the show.
Okay.
And you said, we were talking about just like how one makes the leap between, you know, doing this as a hobby and deciding to, you know, try to do it professionally. And I think you were trying to make the point of, like, it's not something that you have to, that you necessarily do to try to become a professional at. It's something that you can just do as a hobby. Do you feel like you've been doing it as a hobby, or do you feel like, because I remember you saying something about, like, and I agreed with it 100%. That's what I remember, about, like, not wanting to, like, have to wait for, like, flights in the airport and, you know, like, that kind of stuff. Just
Right.
the life of a stand-up comedian is very difficult.
It is. I mean, you wouldn't want to avoid doing this as a career if it's your motivation simply to avoid the airports.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little far-reaching. That's kind of how my mind works. But my goal in this is honestly not to be like doing Carnegie Hall. That's there's no reason somebody shouldn't aspire to that. I don't. But within doing it at the level I'm doing it, I still want to do it as a professional. I want to do this the best I can because that makes it worthwhile for me and the people watching. If you're just going to kind of half-arse it.
You could swear, it's fine.
I know. I'd almost say don't. 'Cause if you're just getting up there to talk and get people to listen to you, that's not really comedy. You don't need to be doing that for that. You can just go stand on a street corner in a big city and yell at people.
Yeah.
Maybe get tasered or something. But
If you're lucky.
all right, well, let's not go there yet. But no, if you're passionate about this, whether you're just looking to do it for yourself or as a career, I think you should treat them both the same way. Put the same level of effort into writing and preparing that you would regardless, because there's people who probably got into this just kind of doing it to have fun and it ended up becoming their career. And there's people who get into this gung-ho doing shows every night, knowing someday they're going to make it, and it just doesn't happen. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Luck is a big part of it. So if you're driving toward doing it well, just do it well. And I'm not a person who sets long-term goals. That's just not really how I work. But if you have one, fine, work toward it. But do the best you can and put in effort regardless of what you hope the outcome would be.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And I like what you said about luck. That's true. But I think that if you're prepared and you work hard, if you do get lucky, then you're going to be ready for it, you know?
Yes.
Because if you get lucky, you run into somebody and then you have a bad set or something, you know?
Correct.
I mean, which can happen, but
yes,
if you practice and like you said, and you really work on it, your chances are averages you're going to have a good set if you run into somebody.
You never know who's watching at shows. There could be someone who, any kind of, networking is a big part of this. Anybody could be watching at any time. So.
Yeah. Did you hear about Beecher? I did the open mic in Bridgeport. The first one we did, he ended up getting a gig with the Bluefish because of the.
I knew he did that. I didn't know that's how it happened.
There were some people in the audience at the mic. They were just there and listening, and they liked him, and they went up to him after the show and offered him the job, or talk to him, and he got the job. Not that that's a huge, but it's still something.
No, but it is something. It's like a career thing.
And then think about all the people who are going to see him
exactly
on that, the field.
Any
so
gig can turn into anything else.
Yeah.
Weren't you on that Bluefish show?
Yeah.
Yes, I was on the show that they did.
He and I both were.
Oh, yeah, you both were.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. How was that?
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really didn't know what to expect, but it was.
I didn't know either. They had us in like a press box, I guess you would call it, or like where you have parties, a box, and you could still see the game. So they had us set up in there, and there's I'd say like 20, 25 people in there.
Room was pretty full.
Yeah.
Cool.
And they're really receptive, and they didn't like talk. They were paying attention. They had a good time. They were laughing, so it was fun. The Bluefish guy came in, the mascot. Me and Caesar Ostrowski, we held him up. It was cool. We got a good picture of that.
It was during Caesar's set, wasn't
it? It was during the set, and then I ran over there and we grabbed him. It was cool. It was a lot of fun.
So was the game on when this was all happening?
Yes.
And the Bluefish were losing miserably, so several people addressed that.
Yeah.
Including myself.
So I'm guessing they lost the game.
Yes. That night they did.
Yeah, we tried, but
there's only so much we could do from the party box.
Exactly. It was a good time.
Once the players started coming off the field to watch the show, I think that was the first sign.
That would be a good testament to us as performers, but
that
didn't happen that night. Maybe the next one.
I thought I was going to be doing jokes from home plate. Come on.
And by the time I got up there, the Tilted Kilt girls had left, so I was going to say some stuff about them too. But
Tilted Kilt?
It was an Irish bar that recently closed in Milford, but they semi-sponsored some of the beverages or something that was provided
at
the event. So there were these women in kilts standing next to the stage for a while.
It's kind of like a Hooters-esque restaurant.
Yeah,
but it's
Irish
called
Hooters.
Tilted Kilt.
It closed.
The one in Milford did, but they still have somewhere around Hartford in that area, Newington or Weathersfield, I think is still open.
I'm just correct myself. I said Irish. I meant Scottish. I can just see people commenting on that right now, so I'm just catching it.
Some kind of ish. All right, guys.
Yes. Yeah.
Jeez, it's Monday.
Oh,
Cut us a break.
Scottish/Irish
Jeez.
militants. They're tough.
I heard that. Well, yeah. Well,
Irish militants?
Those
never heard of that.
That's a rugby team, isn't it?
The IRA. What? What year is this?
No, just people like the people from like
Oh, no, I know what
Ireland
you
and Scotland.
Oh,
like they're
yes.
just very, like, aren't they like kind of rivalry? Like there's a lot of rivalry and stuff.
I don't really know that much about it, but sure. No, I know like the Irish was a big thing. They're trying to get their independence back when, but
Yeah, I think that goes back to
any nationality, especially in that area, that's not what it is. And we're so, Americans were just so ignorant to anything. We're like, yeah, it's Mexican, right? No, we're from El Salvador. It's the same thing, right? No, not even. It's the same thing. Or so.
I do know that Scotland almost recently seceded from the United Kingdom, but they voted it to stay in.
Oh,
as
okay.
England's bitch.
I remember. I remember that being in the news. That's crazy. So,
Nice.
Ferguson.
I've heard of it. Are we going there?
I don't
Subject material? I don't mean traveling there.
we don't have the budget yet. We can walk there, but that might take a while.
This isn't the time to do that.
No, I don't know. What do you guys want to talk about? Do you want to talk about topical stuff, or do you want to keep talking about comedy?
It's up to you guys. I mean, I think we should talk about comedy. I like with his 12 years in the business.
Yeah, I want to hear
a couple other questions.
I want to hear like your worst, like not your worst show, but one of the worst shows you've done in the last 12 years. Because I've been around for about 2. Brandon's been doing it for about 1 year, and I know we've both seen some shit. And
I had somebody almost die at a show that I was at.
I would imagine. Yeah. I would imagine being 12 years in, you probably have some pretty cool stories about stuff you have to deal with.
I have a good wide variety. I'm fortunate enough to say that the majority of the shows I've done have been good.
That's good.
Everyone has some bad ones. I've also fortunate enough to say I've never had one that was so horrible there was like booing and throwing things, because that does happen. I mean, I don't think it's very common, but or hecklers just yelling at you to go away or anything like that. People in my audience has either listened or would talk a lot. Talking a lot's probably been the worst, just because one audience I remember probably like 3 or 4 years in just was so talky, like I could barely say anything.
Mm-hmm.
It was not so much heckly, but it was just like I'd say like start a sentence and then they would finish it, and then start conversations at their table about whatever subject I could no longer talk about because they were talking.
Yeah.
That was pretty rough. Sometimes it's just like there's nothing you could. I even like gave up. Like I was gonna do like 8 minutes. I had done like 5, and sometimes I just feel like there are audiences you can't reach.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just gonna say, all right, thank you. I'll leave. And they were actually like disappointed. Like, no, you're not done. Come back. What are you running away from?
We still haven't destroyed your soul enough, sir. Get back here. We want to make it so you cry.
It didn't even seem like it was in that vein. It was just like, come on. Kidding. No, but seriously, sometimes it would be like, we want to abuse you more. It wasn't like that.
Yeah.
I've had some where there's just like hardly any audience. People get up and leave in the middle. I don't think I have really anything that was so disastrous that it made me want to quit. Oh, I can tell you this one. This was like a couple of 3rd or 4th time ever.
Oh, wow.
The first few minutes I was doing went really well. What happened was I was on a show that was overbooked. They told me to do 15. I was planning to do like about 10 I had already done and 5 new. And rookie mistake, I was going to end on the 5 new. Because when I got there, they said, we booked too many people. We can only give you 7 minutes. So again, rookie mistake. I cut out all the stuff I had already done because I wanted to do my new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The first 3 or 4 minutes I was killing.
Mm-hmm.
The last 3 or 4 minutes, tumbleweed.
Oh, no.
Like, I see kind of what I did, but it just went from here to here. And then I kept going through it, which I guess you're supposed to do even at that level. I didn't know. But by the end, I said, that's my time. And I heard a voice in the audience say, thank God.
Oh, no.
I've had that.
One of the other professionals who was like semi-headlining featuring, there was like several pros there that night, told me she would have guessed I'd been doing it 8 months. And this was like a month in. So that was
okay.
sort of a saving thing.
Oh, that's good.
But that was like right after I had lost my day job too. So things were really looking up for me at that particular point in time.
When it rains, it pours.
Yeah. But no, I always remember that, and I know what I did wrong, and I had tried that bit sort of again after that, and it went pretty well. I just sort of shelved it. Didn't like throw it away entirely, but I just haven't gotten back to it. But now I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'll bring it back because I'm always, I've written so much stuff over the years. Not all of it's been gold, but some of it like went well, and I just thought I'll come back to this, and I haven't. I can't.
Yeah, it's always nice when you like kind of like almost forget about a bit,
Yeah.
and then like you go back to it and look at it, and then think to yourself, "Oh, I like this bit," or maybe it worked so or half the time, but like it's almost like with a fresh pair of eyes, you can almost like retool it and make it better.
Yep. Yeah.
I would imagine like you have so much of that. Like,
Yeah.
in your
I think we all get
backlog.
set in our ways and like get comfortable with doing stuff.
Yeah.
But sometimes I dig through. I write down pretty much everything I've ever done. I've missed some here and there, and I keep a log of all the shows I've ever done.
Oh wow.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Do you have like a count of how many shows you've done?
I don't. I should. I just have like the dates and the venues.
Do you
it's
put notes
probably
in
in the
about them or
hundreds.
anything? Or?
What I used to do is I write which bits I did, and then I just kind of started forgetting. Like I'll like 2 months will go by. It's like, oh, I haven't updated for a while, and the dates will stay in my head, so I can go and put them down on the list, but I don't necessarily remember what I did at which one.
Oh, okay.
And then I was never sure, like, if sometimes you do 2 shows in the same venue in a night, would I count that as 1 or 2? I guess technically it's 2, even though it's the
I
same
would say
booking.
2.
But I'm in the hundreds. I don't know where exactly, but that would be interesting. I should count that at some point.
Wow. What about like can you name like one of your best shows ever, or like one of your biggest audiences?
Biggest audience, and this is kind of with an asterisk because it was, again, a multi-show night. I did a First Night Hartford a number of years ago, and they have different types of performances and shows that people go to. They had a comedy night, which was a half hour, 3 comics doing 10 minutes, and they had 5 different offerings of that so that people could go at different times depending on when they were there. I did 5 performances that night to about 200 to 250 people each time, so
Wow.
somewhere between probably like 1,000, 1,200 people.
Wow.
Was probably my largest. But again, it was split up, but still collectively for a single night it was in the 4 digits.
Wow, that's cool.
One show that probably stands out as being like one of the best I remember, it was at a lodge in a small rural town in the vicinity, Derby for people who aren't who are in the area, rural town for people who aren't. It was in like some guy's backyard practically. It was like the houses were all close together, and then there was this narrow roadway to the back. So myself and the other people performing on it walk in, pretty much empty. There's like a bartender at the bar who's got to belong to the lodge because he was just kind of sitting there. You didn't even know if he was even alive. And then a couple people came in, and we were just like, all right, this is either going to be terrible or there's not even going to be a show. People started trickling in. There was maybe 10 or 15 people, and there was like 3 people driving up from New York who hadn't gotten there yet. So you don't want to have people drive from New York all the way up here and say, sorry, there's no show. So I decided, yeah, let's do it. I only did like 5 minutes. Half of it was about the place.
Mm-hmm.
They were like roaring the entire time. I was making jokes about the bartender, the pool table that looked like it was from the 19th century, just everything about the place, and every line just seemed to land perfectly. I kind of wish I had that one recorded, but I didn't.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's
was
a
fun.
big thing I like to do is to record, because sometimes you just say something and then
Yeah.
wait, what did I say that worked? You forget, right? I mean,
Yeah, I always like never want to record, and then after I get off stage and did well, I'm always like, "Fuck,
Yeah.
why did I do that?"
Well, this is the thing. You don't have to. You can record every one, but you don't have to listen to every one.
Exactly,
There you
you
go.
can
So
just
just
delete
record
it.
them and then
yeah, I'm
delete
thinking
them.
again like a GoPro or something. What do you use to record? Do you just do voice or
just
do
do
video?
voice?
You just do
Yeah,
voice?
I should probably do video too. It would probably.
Yeah, I need another, like, I've used like phones, but mine I kind of have to, prop it right and hope nobody bumps the table. That's just,
Oh, okay.
for as long as I've been doing it, I should have a better answer for this, but I should be recording more also, because I've done some this year that was just like, that would have been nice to have on camera, and there's really no excuse at this point to not.
Yeah.
What's the longest set or time that you filled?
Probably 35.
Where was that?
Twice. I don't consider myself at the headliner level, but I was for these 2 shows. One was in New London about 10 years ago. The other was
So that was when you were only 2 years in?
Yeah.
You did 35 minutes?
Yeah, I kept them listening. They weren't like hysterical the whole time, but I was getting laughs. And same with about 5 years ago in Orange, a restaurant that's closed now. But the real
What restaurant?
It's had about 5 names in 8 years. It's currently Prime 16, I believe.
Oh, okay,
This
yeah.
was like 3 or 4 incarnations ago.
Yes. All right. Jacob Marley's and all those.
Between Jacob and Prime 16.
Yeah.
One of those. Yeah, there's about 30 people there. About half of them were my friends, but whatever.
Hey,
It still counts.
The real headliner was someone who I think he'd been on Last Comic Standing, but he came up and said, I don't want to go last. Which is odd for a headliner to say, but I was the person before that, so I went last, and I just did about 35 minutes. And again, they were paying attention, laughing the whole time, not rolling on the floor like you'd expect from somebody who's been on Letterman or something. But it was fun. Everyone had a good time. So
that's good.
Awesome. So you have anything coming up that you're excited about or working on?
I have a few right now, not too many booked at the moment, but stuff's coming up all the time. I had a bunch within the last few weeks. I think I have a fundraiser in February that's still being worked out.
Is that at the Swedish Club?
It's a club. I still have to get all the details.
Is it through Rich?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I think it is at the. Did you? It's at the Swedish Club in Bristol.
Okay.
Did you do that last year?
No.
Okay, that was an awesome
That's
show.
what he said.
There was probably about 160 people there, like huge turnout.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was a big room, and they were into it. That's actually a show he was telling me about too. I'm excited to do.
Yeah, I asked him to clarify the date because he said it's Tuesday, February 24th, and no, excuse me, he said it's Friday, February 24th, and February 24th is not a Friday next year. So I need somebody to clarify something.
Yeah, he didn't give me a date at all. He just said.
Well,
February.
I asked him because I wanted to know because I have something else not comedy related around that time. I'm trying to schedule. I don't want this to conflict.
Yeah.
So I want to get the date for this first because that's pretty much set.
Yeah.
Everything else can kind of fall around it.
Yeah. No, that's gonna be a great show.
Yeah, he said it was great, so I'm looking forward to that. That's one I should probably record. Have a device ready.
Yeah, definitely have something ready. I plan on having something ready too. So being around the block for so long, how do you feel about open mics? Do you still hit open mics or?
I will when I have either enough new stuff I've written or modified other stuff that I'd like to try. It's a little difficult sometimes because if it's an open mic where there's hardly anyone there, other than just kind of socializing and maybe networking a little, it's tough to get much out of it. But I'm not above open mics, and I don't think anyone should ever be. You can do like a 15,000 seat theater and fill the place, but that doesn't mean you're not going to be writing new stuff. You're going to have to work out somewhere. Yeah. So no, I would always encourage any comedian at any level to do an open mic. I don't get to them that often just because sometimes I go through like writing slumps, and it doesn't really seem in my interest to just go to an open mic and do material I do all the time anyway. If I think of enough ways to change it up and try it out, then I will. But no, that's something that should always be on the docket for any comedian at any level, I would say.
Definitely. We Joker's Wild saw Lisa Lampanelli at the open mic. Yeah. What was that? Like
sometime earlier this year.
4 months ago or so. Were you there that night?
Yeah, I was there.
Okay, yeah, I was too.
She was sitting right next to me, and I didn't even recognize her. She lost so much weight, and her hair is really short.
Really? I haven't seen her in
I thought she was, I didn't know. I'm like, who's this lady? Like somebody's like that Lisa Lampanelli. I think it was maybe Dan Rice texted me, and he's like, you're sitting right next to Lisa Lampanelli. So I'm like looking over, and I'm like making it way too obvious. I'm like, there's no way. I thought he was messing with me, and then she got introduced on stage. I'm like, oh, it is her. Okay.
Yeah. Did you know Lisa when she was around Connecticut?
I did a couple of shows with her before she got to the point where I think like her management company wouldn't let her do. I mean, once you get to that level, you don't have to. But yeah, I worked with her a couple of times. She actually, the last time I worked with her was 2006. A friend of mine was getting married, and a couple weeks before they did a roast for him, and she hosted it.
Really?
So that was a good. I think they recorded part of that. I don't think it's all saved anywhere, but I got a very good response that night, and I talked to her very briefly, but someone told me that somebody said that she was very impressed with my writing.
Oh, cool.
So that was kind of cool.
That's cool
to hear.
Definitely. Yeah, it's crazy that that she was just a local person who ended up just like popping. I mean, was that Like, could you see that coming, or
Well,
did anybody?
When I started comedy in '02, she had already been on television, so she was pretty established already. I think her rise was mostly in the '90s. This is even before I even knew I'd be doing comedy, so I didn't really even know the name till I got into it. But then she was like a local. She used to do places in Hamden and Milford and Trumbull, and then as her TV credits just got bigger and bigger, she started doing theaters.
Oh, wow.
So, but yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. It could just happen like that. Because we had Johnny Benson on here, and he was talking to us about her.
Yep.
I guess he worked with her in the late '90s,
Yeah.
as she was coming up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anyone else that you've worked with or been close with that had
she's
gotten you started?
probably the biggest name. I did a show in New York, probably like first year in, and I didn't get to talk to him or anything, but Jim Norton showed up.
Oh, all right.
wow.
A few people after me in the lineup and did some time, and then Rich Voss also showed
Oh,
up
yeah.
same night.
Oh, those guys are funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite, you think? Or one of your biggest inspirations?
I always like Louis Black. I've
Yeah,
seen
oh,
him,
yeah.
I've seen him like 8 or 9 times live, and that's like not enough.
Did you ever see him at the Oakdale?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen him. I actually met him there afterwards.
He did a signing one about 5 or 6 years ago there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have anything with me, so I didn't bother getting in line, but a friend of mine did and I think he got a CD signed. But I've read his biography and then one of his other books. And
Did he mention me? No, I'm just kidding.
were you hooker number 8?
Oh, man. Damn it. It's my secret's out.
Well, we can bleep that.
It's live. No bleeps here.
The recording.
That's cool. So
yeah,
you think he was an inspiration for you to get
little bit.
into it?
He's one of like the only like as I write, I try to hear stuff in my head, and sometimes when I write, I would almost like think like how would I hear him talking about this same topic?
Yeah.
He would probably have about 18 more F-bombs than I would, but I
Yeah.
could still say it, the thoughts, but I'd even try to hear it in his mind, hear it in his voice, and sometimes it would structure how I would write.
Yeah. I've always been a huge fan of Louis Black myself. Definitely.
I saw him on the street in New York City back in like 2008 or 2009, and he was a nice guy. I was like, Louis Black, I'm a big fan. And then I shook his hand. I held my hand out. I could tell he really didn't want to shake my hand because I'm sure he's got to shake so many hands a day. But like he did, and he was like, "Oh, thanks, nice to meet you." And I was like, "All right, bye." It was awkward.
Yeah.
But he seemed like a nice guy.
I've heard that he's very nice and that he's very different from the stage persona.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Actually, I have a couple friends who went and saw his show, and then afterwards. This was back in like the early 2000s, so he wasn't really a big name yet. I think they just saw him at a comedy club, and afterwards they were like just bullshitting with him, and he was smiling, laughing, and they said he was very different from the whole persona.
Yeah, one of my friends was also a big fan, and I put it pretty much the way I thought, or that I agreed with. You watch comedians sometimes and you say this guy's all right. Sometimes you watch comedians and you think this guy's really good. He said when he saw Louis Black, he thought, I want to be this guy.
Yeah.
It's like, I was like, yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. I had a similar story after a show. He had a line where he was like signing stuff, and I got to the back of the line on purpose so I could be the last one because as people were coming through, they were kicking him out. So I hung around and waited, and I got in the end of the line, and I was second to last. So I got to talk to him for a little bit. And 2 people, or the one person in front of me, they had their mom on the phone. And he talked to the mom. It was great because I guess she couldn't make it to the show, so he talked to her for a few minutes. Yeah, he was really, really nice guy, definitely. And you could tell he was exhausted. You could just.
I'm sure
He was tired. He was up there for like an hour and a half or so.
I think he's about 65.
Yeah.
He didn't break till like early 50s.
Yeah,
which is
isn't that
rare? But it's
crazy?
impressive.
Yeah.
One
he
of the things
just
in his
stayed with it.
bio impressed me. He was never aspiring to be stand-up comedy. He spent years trying to make it as a playwright.
Oh, really?
And he did like stand-up kind of on the sides at
Really?
like shows that like little venues that would allow him to put on his plays.
Mm-hmm.
He would like go and sometimes do stand-up up front before the play started.
Mm-hmm.
And none of his plays ever took off, but the stand-up did.
Yeah. He
So
has a really unique perspective and voice that you don't really hear out of the mainstream. I think you might hear it, but in the mainstream on the news, you either hear one side or the other.
Yeah.
And I love how especially he be on the Daily Show, and he has like the in the middle common sense thing. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, he would yell at both sides, which I love.
Yes.
Because you get some people that are hardcore Republicans or Democrats, and he was just like, you guys are both idiots, you know?
Yes.
And so many people, I think, feel that way. And that's why I think he has such a huge following. Maybe they're not so vocal about it. Because if you think about it, if you have an opinion that if you know someone that's like a hardcore Republican or Democrat and you have an opinion that clashes with them, you know, if you bring it up, you're just going to argue with this person, you know? So a lot of people, like, I used to be like that. I wouldn't really say anything to certain friends I would. But when I heard him and when I saw him in The Daily Show, I was just like nailing it. I'm like, this guy's nailing it. It's exactly what I'm thinking. So I can imagine a lot of people would think that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's great that his voice was able to come through. And it's crazy the road in the path, you know, you always think you have a road ahead of you that you're going to follow, and then something just happens, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's not just comedy, that's anything.
Yeah, oh,
but
yeah.
especially comedy.
Yeah, it really is. Any kind of performing. I run into a lot of, I talk to a lot of comics when I go to New York, and it's funny to hear their paths, you know, how they got there. Some people are just young, they just moved to New York. Some people are there for working, and they just stumbled into comedy, you know? So it's amazing, definitely.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in Lewis Black. What, like, was he doing stand up when he was in his 20s and 30s and 40s, or?
Well, according to his bio,
like,
he started very young, around the same time he was writing plays that he was trying to get made done.
And how was he making money? Did he have like a day job separate from that, or?
I don't remember that, but again, I think he was just that was his passion, so that was what he was focusing most of his energy on, and just stand-up ended up kind of going hand in hand with theater and the stuff he was doing for plays, and he never stopped that. It was kind of just always there, even though he was never really, that wasn't really where his heart was. I don't remember if he had like a day, he probably did have like day jobs for a while, or just working in this theater industry doing stuff related, like, you know, a lot of times in New York, aspiring stand-up comics will bartend or wait tables at a club so they can get stage time from time to time. I think it was something like that.
I remember hearing a story, like the first time he went and did stand-up comedy, he was like high on acid or something.
Oh, really?
He did his whole set, but like the crowd wasn't laughing at all. And then when he walked off, he realized he did it all in his head. Like, he didn't actually say something.
No.
He does have routines about like his drug history. It's pretty amusing. I don't remember that story specifically, but I could easily see that. He talks about how he, you know, used to do LSD and get scared because he'd watch his refrigerator turn into a puma and run away.
Oh yeah, I've heard him say that before. Yeah.
But so yeah, he does talk openly about how he did drugs. So that probably happened. I just don't remember that story.
Yeah, I think what was the name of his book?
He's had a couple. The bio.
Because I feel like I
might have to look it up because it's been a while since I read it. Let me look it up. But
I could Google it. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Keep going.
I should
got the
know.
Google machine right here.
I read it about five or 6 years ago, but I can't remember the title offhand. Nothing Sacred, possibly. I think that was one of his. I don't remember if that was the first book.
Oh, okay.
He wrote another one about. I think he's had 3 or 4. I've read 2 of them. One was mostly about Christmas, and that was.
Me of Little Faith, maybe? That says one here.
That sounds familiar. I think that was the one I didn't read. I think that was his second.
That's someone that's coming. That's probably one they're trying to push now because it's coming up the most. Damn you, Google. Remember when Google wouldn't try to sell you things so much?
Yeah. Have you read any other comedian, like, biography or autobiography?
Not too many.
Books?
I did read Rodney Dangerfield's. That was.
Oh, okay. I read that one.
He's
too.
my biggest regret as far as people I didn't get to see live before they passed. I would have loved to. But I liked his because, much like Lewis's, you felt it was them. It was their word. It wasn't like a ghostwriter cleaning it up. You really felt like you were listening to the guy who told all the jokes you like, writing his own story.
Yeah. It's funny, too, because Rodney is another guy who popped late. But
That's true,
he
yeah.
also, like, completely stopped comedy
Yes.
when he was, like, 28 or something.
Yes, he stopped.
And then picked it back up when he was, like, 40.
Yeah, he stopped to raise a family, and he took a job doing, like, siding on houses.
Yeah.
Something like that. And then he performed younger. I think it was more vaudeville type of stuff than direct comedy.
Because he wasn't going by Rodney Dangerfield. He was
Right.
just going by, I think his real name is Jacob Cohen.
Yes. Yep.
So he was just going by that. And
Yes.
I don't think he saw much success. That was why he quit.
No, he had some, but yeah, that was, he told about some of the stories that he had, and it just wasn't really going anywhere. And he had like kids to raise, so he stopped for a while. And then he's another one who didn't get really big till like 50.
He's one of those guys you got to wonder, like, maybe he's just funnier as an old guy. Maybe as a younger guy there was something about him that didn't seem as funny. Because I remember seeing that, like, clips. I think there's clips online of him when he was younger.
Well, it could be things that happen to you in life experiences. You change, you gain a different perspective. Because the way he seemed, he just, oh man, he was just amazing. You know, any situation, he was just like kind of above it, but in it, you know, like, and he would just make fun of everything. You know, it was great.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that's just,
And he made some great movies too. That he was in, like Back to School and
Oh,
Caddyshack. You know, it's just
Yeah.
just amazing. You know, I don't know, man.
Yeah, Nothing Sacred was the title of Lewis's autobiography.
Okay. Yeah, I had it up, but I don't want to
Okay.
interrupt you guys.
No, that's right.
But yeah.
But no, yeah, Rodney, I think a lot of the stuff he talked about in his one-liners was about, how, his wife who didn't respect him. And I think that is something that comes with age. I don't know if you could really do, my wife disrespects me at 25 kind of jokes. Even if you're married, what are you married, 6 months?
Yeah.
There are jokes about being married 6 months, but it's not the stuff he did. I think what he did worked partly because of the age, because of the life experience and the...
Yeah, so there's hope for us old guys. See, Rodney wasn't was he 50-something, you said before?
I think he was 40s or 50s.
I think he started back again when he was in his early 40s, but it took him from that point years to actually get famous. I think by the time he was in his 50s, he kind of became more of a household name. He was on the Tonight Show with
Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson, yes. Carson was the guy who kind of introduced him.
Yeah,
that back in I think the late 70s. But yeah, he was already in his maybe even mid 50s when that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about how it used to be. It must have been so hard to try to get on because you would have to get on one of these TV shows. And now with the internet, with YouTube and everything, maybe that's why there's so many comedians now.
Yeah, it's it's easier to get your stuff out there, but the market's so saturated that nobody, it's
that's
hard.
That's again why luck is a big factor.
Yeah,
you
really
don't know what it takes to make a video go viral. Some of them just do, and then you can become, people become international hit musicians because of that, or comedians.
Yeah.
So just but putting stuff out there is the way to get identified, as well as the the old-fashioned channels of actual stage time and the stuff we do.
Yeah, I was also thinking about how we do this podcast and other people do the podcasts, and we have a few viewers, so we're kind of chipping away at the mainstream. And think about how many other people are doing their podcasts. We might have 5 to 10 viewers while it's live, and then a couple hundred on the YouTube. But those people are, instead of taking an hour where they could be watching TV, they're watching us. So it's really starting to chip away at what people are consuming. And another thing, I think it's more local. So it's funny how it's becoming more local, because people who are watching this are probably my friends, your friends, people around the area, but they like it and they're entertained. So not only people say you should eat local and farm local, but also entertainment's starting to become more local too, which I think is really great.
It is. That's a good point.
Yeah,
it is, because it gives people an opportunity. I did the show. If you do a show, for instance, at Joker's Wild, it's all people from the area, and you're making them laugh. They could be out watching a movie. They could be out home watching TV. They could be out at a bar. But it's great that we're there entertaining them. I don't know. It's just something that they wouldn't have gotten.
Agreed.
Previously. Yeah, I think it's something that's really good that's happened. A lot of people are saying they think the market's saturated, but I still think that it's gonna the good people are still gonna rise to the top.
Yeah, in some ways, I think there's always gonna be people who are really talented and just don't get the acknowledgement for it. And vice versa. But I think there are more channels now, so you can put stuff together in your bedroom and record it.
Yeah,
and put it out there for people to watch.
What's really the market's success too? Some people think it's wealth and being famous. But if you are talented and you make a lot of people laugh, maybe you're not making a lot of money, but even if you're making a living and you're affecting this many people's lives, I was thinking about the headliner this weekend at Joker's had this joke, and I was telling everybody else about it. And he's not a famous, he's been on TV and stuff, but not everyone knows who he is, but he still affected my life and then other people's lives because they were laughing at the stuff I was telling them. It's just so much different now, I think, than it used to be in that regard. Yeah. The internet is just,
It is. It makes, have a much wider audience. I went to my cousin's wedding earlier this year, and then his aunt, which is my father's brother's wife's sister, who I may have met 3 or 4 times in my life and do not see very often because she doesn't live around here, was saying how she loves my Facebook statuses.
Nice.
So I don't comment, but a lot of people see that stuff, and it's just it's so easy to get out there and just make a little difference, even if it's just somebody reading a funny statement a couple of times a day. Yeah,
it's amazing. That's what I love when people say, people that I don't even expect. Because I'm a DJ, local DJ here in Milford, and I was DJing at SBC one weekend, and there's this girl that I know there that comes there a lot, and she asks for songs. And she said something about, she's like, oh, I saw your podcast. And it was someone that I would really just never expect to see, you know?
Oh, wow.
She's like, oh, I really liked it. So I was like, wow, that's awesome, you know? Like, tell everybody. Tell your friends. Come on, slacker. But, yeah, it's crazy how sometimes you affect people. And then some people show up to your shows that you would never expect.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, wow, it really, you really get to see who your real friends are, and you get to see a different side of people that you wouldn't expect, you know. And it's helped me kind of, because I think I still am very judgmental. I love to judge for some reason. It's my favorite hobby.
It's probably because you're a human being.
Yeah, exactly.
In America.
Yeah, but I've become less judging on people now, because I see that I underestimated people, I guess, which I think is the worst thing you could do, is underestimate somebody.
No, I do that myself, and I shouldn't.
Well, maybe I think raping them might be worse. But then underestimating
what do you
is bad.
do at your shows?
And then murdering them. No, I just mean in general to a person. The worst thing you could do is probably rape them. No, and then underestimate them, and then murder them, yes.
I'm going to reel back a little bit now to something you were saying before rape and murder about seeing a different side of people coming to see you. I think that's a two-way street. They're probably seeing a different side of the person they've never seen do stand-up before.
Yeah. Oh.
I get that a lot. People who said, like, I can't believe that's you up there.
Yeah.
You know, I get to say and do things a little differently on stage than I might do in an office or at church or other places. I remember one guy, like, lately I've been trying to go a little more calm and deadpan in my act, because I've been told I do that well, and I think it's more similar to how I am as a person.
Yeah, that's
but
great.
I've also done some more animated, lively stuff. I remember once or twice people who knew me, but had, you know, after the first time they saw me on stage, came was like, "Dude, I never heard you scream before." And it was just an animated bit where I get loud and lively because I think it drives the point home. And that was just like not something I ever expect anybody to say to me. Like, do you keep track of who you know that screams? But that was just like them saying,
and you
like,
thought my rape comment was creepy. That's kind of
people scream for lots of reasons.
Before. I scream.
Roller coasters. A mouse runs through the room.
I heard ice cream's a big one people scream for.
Yes.
I've gotten that too, like that. I can really relate to that, where, you know, people say, I don't, you know, I'm a shy guy, so they don't really know that I talk much, and then when I tell them I do stand up, like, they just have this reaction that's like, oh, you do? Like, I never would have expected that. Or if they see me, oh, it was, you know, I never would have thought that was you.
Yeah, I've gotten that too.
Do you tell people that you work with that you do stand up, or do you kind of keep those worlds separate? Because I feel like I always try to keep those worlds separate, but then there's always something that happens where either coworkers find out or I let it slip somehow, and then it's like opening up Pandora's box with some people where they're like, wait, what? Oh my God.
I don't make a production about it to other, like you said, other worlds, but they find out. I was amused because the job I have now I got in 2003, and when I started there, well, let me say, everyone I work with knows I do this, but I never told anyone that I do this.
Oh, gotcha.
See, that's the worst.
The second day I was there, I was having lunch with 3 people, new coworkers, and one of them looks at me and says, "I hear you do stand-up," and the other 2 both go, "Shh, you're not supposed to talk about that." Okay, first of all,
why are people so weird?
First of all, how do you know that? Second of all, why is it a secret?
What year was this?
2003. It was like right after.
So it's not even
started.
like there's Facebook or anything. Like,
I guess one of the references I gave to the manager that hired me from my previous company, who knew I did it, probably mentioned it.
Oh.
So he probably said, I'm told he does comedy, but don't talk about that. It's like, why not? So word got around.
It becomes this like dirty little secret when it doesn't need to.
And then a lot of people I've worked with have come to see me, which I appreciate.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like the total opposite. I will tell people that I do stand up before I tell them my name. So, I mean, everybody, that's like the first thing I tell people. I'm just a human promotion machine, though. I just love to.
And I'm just not. But
yeah, because I'm so outgoing now. Like, I used to be. It's funny because nobody that I know now that didn't know me knows that I used to be very introverted and I was shy. And I had like these huge glasses, and I was very skinny and braces and all this stuff. And so I really came out of my shell, obviously. If you haven't noticed, I'm a little crazy.
In high school, the way I was, I could never have done stand-up.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So
and I've always thought about it then, but I just never. There was never a path, or it was, you know, because it's always like, well, what are you gonna do? There's always easy paths to do things, and not that there were easy things to do, but I joined the Marines, which it's very easy to join the Marines. Not so easy to complete and to go through, but there wasn't anyone standing there going, hey, you want to be a stand-up comedian, you know? So I forgot my original point. Oh yeah, so I tell everybody that I just I don't know.
That's the right
no
way.
one seems to be that surprised when I tell them though either. You know,
that's fine.
I'm just a clown, but
Well, a lot of stand-up comedians are.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah,
The worst is when you tell somebody you're a comic and they immediately say, "Well, tell me a joke."
oh yeah,
I get
yeah.
that too.
That's something.
What are your responses to that? Because I feel like I'm always just like shell shocked. Like I don't know what to say.
I think it depends on the mood that I'm in. I've been trying to be a lot nicer and less sarcastic to people, and it's been working out well though. I mean, I've been making more friendships, or different ones than I would have. But my funniest story that I like. And I'm trying to make this funny maybe for a bit, but I'm not sure. But I used to play a lot of poker, and I still play. So whenever I go to Mohegan, all the dealers know me. Now, of course, because I tell everybody they know I'm doing stand-up comedy. So that's what happened. One's like, oh, you're doing stand-up? He's like, tell me a joke. And I'm like, it doesn't really work like that. And everyone at the table, like the other people were kind of like, yeah, it doesn't. But the dealer was the only one who's like, no, come on, man, tell me a joke. And someone else was like, yeah, but that's not how stand-up works. So I was like, all right, I got one. I love being a stand-up comedian now. Because now it's so much easier for me to tell who's like a good person, who's like a piece of shit. He's like, how? I go, well, when I tell someone I'm a comedian and they ask me to tell them a joke, I know they're a piece of shit or they're simple or whatever it was that I used.
Yeah.
And everyone at the table laughed at him. He's like, that's not funny. I'm like, well, everyone else is laughing. So
Yeah.
you push for me.
That's a good answer. Lately,
it's clunky to say it on stage though, but
I got it last week. Somebody asked me, and lately what I say is, I can tell you a joke, like a guy walks into a bar, would you like to hear a joke like that? Because I can sit here and tell you that. If you want to hear stand-up, I can't sit here at a bar and narrate my act. It doesn't work. Come and see me. But yeah, I'll tell you a joke. Knock, knock.
Yeah.
And I know a few, story jokes, and I'll tell those, but that's what usually
I think
quiets them down.
The worst thing you could do as a comedian is if you have an idea for a joke and you try to run it by a person, like, oh, what do you think about this? And they're just like, But it's like, no, you got to get up and you're performing it, and it's a whole, you're moving and your inflection. There's so many things.
I've known people who do stand up occasionally, and one guy just like would do it to hey, I just wrote this joke. He would tell everybody, I just wrote this joke. Like, no, don't do that.
Come see me at the show. That's what I tell them.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. If you want to see the act, because then it's an actual show. You have the audience, all the elements that make a good show. Not me at a bar drinking, trying to think of a joke I read online 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not what you want to hear, but that's what you're asking for. And if you press, that's what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, I think it, though, also, it's just something, when people say it, and I don't think they realize exactly what they're saying. I think maybe they're just trying to be kind of nice about it, like, oh, you're a comedian, tell me a joke, kind of.
Yeah,
I think it's not like being.
It's
nice.
better than, oh, you're a comedian, you're not even funny. Like, oh,
I love
I get that. Or I'll get, are you funny?
Yeah.
But I think
or you're not funny.
Yeah, exactly. But it's being nice, and I think in a lot of cases it's surprise.
Yeah.
Because you don't often hear that from a person every day. Like, what do you do for a living? I'm a salesman. I'm a computer guy. I'm a comedian. Comedian is rare, so it's almost like shocking, and then that's just like the knee jerk. What's the question you ask a comedian?
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me a joke.
I think it's
and I think
instinctive.
like the saying, everybody's a comedian. I think deep down everybody would like to be a comedian. So when they meet somebody who is or is saying that they are, they're just immediately like, well, oh, you are? Like, maybe
they want to see if they're funnier than you.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Like it becomes like, oh, well, like, let's see like what you have, and like, secretly I think I'm funnier than that. Like, I think that happens with a lot of people.
Yeah, it's competitive. Everyone has a sense of humor. Everyone says funny things once in a while.
Yeah.
There's a difference between that and sitting down and writing a structured set that's supposed to make people laugh. And I think, lay people don't necessarily get that.
Yeah.
And people are just like stunned when they tell me something and I laugh. It's like, I made a comedian laugh. I'm a human being, among other things.
God, I laugh the most.
I'm a human first, and comedian after that.
I laugh at the corniest joke. Like, at every open mic, I'm just howling laughing usually. And it's just because I guess I see their process. So when they say something, I'm like, oh, that's how he came to that. That's funny. You know what I mean? But I think that's where a lot of hecklers come from, too, because I think I've noticed especially people that have come to my mics that have never done comedy twice and they want to try to heckle. Or even the other day at Joker's Wild on the Friday show, there was this girl who came in by herself and was sitting at the bar, and then when Dan Rice was up there, he was kind of heckling her a little bit. And it seemed like she wanted to do comedy, so she was like trying to do it from her seat. You know what I mean? Like trying to make people laugh, which is just so. He would say something, and then she tried to say something funny after it out loud, which obviously we all know it's like heckling and it's horrible, but I think she was just trying to get attention. But it's like,
Yeah.
no, you got to wait, and then you can get your turn, and then you go on stage.
It's like
you
the
know,
I
like,
can be funny too thing.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can get into the proper place, which is not your seat
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
and do it
Yeah.
then.
Exactly. Like people like you say you're a comic, and sometimes they look at it like as a challenge. Like,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
you think you're a comic? Well, what about me? Or
Yeah, just general insecurity. I think.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, no, you're just a person who's bitter. You're afraid to get on stage,
Yeah,
and you're.
exactly.
No, I try to be nice.
I don't get this as much anymore. It used to happen a lot where I'd be, having a social conversation and I say something that people laugh at, and somebody have to go, "Oh yeah, he's a comedian." Like, well, yeah, but that has nothing to do with this conversation.
I usually get like, if someone says something to provoke me, and my friend will be like, no, he's a comedian, don't do that. Because you know how it is. Sometimes you just say mean. Well, it depends on the people, but you could see somebody and you can analyze them, and if you have a comedic brain, you're just bang, and they're like, oh, and you're like, oh, sorry, did I go too far? Like, I'm used to hanging out with my friends, and like nothing's off limits, whatever. You know what I mean? You know what it is, comedians, we just tear each other apart. So. Oh, boy. Well, we're coming up on the hour mark, so we're going to wrap this up. But is there anything you wanted to talk about before we go, or anything you want to plug?
No, I'm doing a sort of comedy theater type of thing. I'm not really a theater person, but somebody I know who does theater stuff asked me to do something for the New Year's Eve in Westport. They're having a first night there, and it's 2 short plays and comedy improv.
Oh, that sounds
I'm
fun.
in one of them.
Are you excited or nervous? Or
Yeah, can't you tell?
yeah, you look
Awake?
dead.
Yes, thank you. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me in a long time. Yeah, it should be fun. I'm practicing for that. That's, of course, the night 31st.
And where's that?
Westport Town Hall. There's a theater in the lower level.
Okay.
Cool.
And how can people find you? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask the same thing.
How can people find you?
I'm on Facebook. I'm friends with both of you.
Okay.
They can find me through you. I don't have comedian in my name. I know some comedians do that for like identification purposes. I don't.
Yes.
It's just a picture of me holding a mic. I've had the same profile picture for 5 years.
So it's just understood.
Well, no, because I hate most pictures of myself, and that one I hate less.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
That's the main reason.
Gotcha.
That
All right,
one's
guys.
acceptable. I'm on Twitter, never.
All right. Well, Facebook
Do you
is
have a Twitter handle?
I do. SHROUDEDSILENCE.
What's
Did you
that
get all
spell?
that? Shrouded silence.
There you go.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Too quick for me.
Yeah.
I had
My
three-
Milford public school education.
Well, I'll plug it.
I'm glad I wasn't alone on that one.
S as in Steve.
All right, and you guys could check us out on comedylol.com. We'll put up links to this. You could watch it on YouTube, and you can watch us live. We usually do it every Monday. And if you're feeling extra generous, you can actually donate to us,
Ooh.
comedylol.com, and you could click on the donate button and just go crazy.
Oh, that sounds good.
All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot, Dave, for coming.
Yeah,
Thank you for having
Dave.
me.
All right.
All right.
Good night,
Good night.
everybody.
Good night. Bye-bye.